When John Miller received the initial signals, the morning sky above NASA's main control center was blue and clear. When the reports showed up on his screen, the head of Deep Space Monitoring almost dropped his coffee. The signals were powerful, distinct, and unquestionably not natural, unlike anything he had ever seen. "You must see this, sir." He phoned his supervisor within hours of each. The same signals were being monitored by a major space agency on Earth. Enormous fleet of spacecraft traveling at amazing speeds across the solar system. The governments of the world attempted to remain silent, but amateur astronomers quickly saw the coming ships. Seemed to be dark shadows moving over Jupiter's face, which could be seen even with little telescopes. Panic then began to expand. When videos started to surface online, the message spread over all frequencies. "This is Ambassador High Commander of the Galactic Empire in flawless English, Earthlings. Resistance is useless as the world has been selected to join our wonderful society. You have 48 hours to accept our offer. We bring unity to discord and order to chaos. Generous offer of membership. If not, we will have to show our strength." The UN called in. For the first time in human history, all nations agreed on an emergency meeting, saying that Earth refused to give in to threats. Thus they established the United. To take on this new challenge, the Earth Council is putting aside previous conflicts. Admiral James Walker saw the satellite photos of the Imperial fleet while seated at the recently constructed Earth Defense Force headquarters. An elderly man with gray hair and keen eyes, Fleet was selected to head Earth's armed forces. Anticipate us to serve because of his sharp strategic thought. Render, he told the group of international military commanders there, they believe we're backward because we don't have their glitzy space drives, but they're not particularly familiar with people, are they? There was a resounding consensus in the room that people had been getting ready for this day since they first saw the. Every nation now had emergency plans, secret weaponry, and underground bunkers. The Council replied to the Empire, saying that they would cooperate. Empire Earth has received your letter. Ask your delegates to land so they may talk about concepts the Empire believes they had won with ease and sent their first evaluation team without realizing that people had already engaged there. Satellites subtly altered planetary defense systems that were concealed in mountains and underseas. Old Cold War bunkers were unsealed, and the Imperial cruiser touched down outside of New York. Their envoy emerged with 4 guards in what seemed to be golden armor. He said, "We will start evaluating your." I am the lead inspector, as if he had anticipated no opposition. At this stage of civilization, kindly provide your leaders and technology access. Admiral Walker greeted them with a kind grin while wearing his basic blue uniform. Keeping his thoughts to himself, he said, "We are a simple people. Welcome to Earth." However, the inspector glanced at the city behind them, "and we would be pleased to show you around." He said, "Your level of technology is concerning," pointing to the vehicles and structures that must have seemed archaic to him. Under the right direction, the Empire would assist you progress. Of course, the inspector was unaware that people had merely taken various routes after discovering the most of the Empire's cutting-edge technology years before. Earth's armaments were concealed, but its people were prepared, thanks to emerging technology that the Empire had never thought of. Admiral Walker was silent but ready as the first day of their review came to a close. Learned that the Empire ships had attempted to compromise Earth's satellites but were unexpectedly successful. They found it challenging to decipher the technology that was blocking their searches for military sites. After failing to map Earth's defenses, the inspector submitted his initial report to the Empire in a crude manner, but calm species with little chance of opposition suggested right away. Admiral Walker wrote in his own office on his assimilation into the lowest echelons of the Empire. Various reports that undervalue us, just like every empire throughout. They would mistake silence for weakness throughout human history, failing to realize that humanity's greatest power isn't in our technology or weaponry, it's in our will to keep the parts free. Were established, Earth would demonstrate to the Empire why endangering humanity was a grave error. The true query wasn't whether the Empire was prepared for what would happen if people fought back, but also if Earth would fight. The Imperial Evaluation Team decided to name their commander Robert after spending their first week on Earth watching and judging. They chose the name Smith from Earth's databases in the hopes of coming off as nicer, but instead it seemed like they were making fun of Humanity Smith as he passed by a typical Texas military installation. Imperial said that his scanning sensors continued to give him odd readings as his golden armor gleamed in the blazing sun. This base's technology should be rudimentary, with modest defenses and weaponry. However, Smith insisted that you show me your finest aircraft since something wasn't adding up. Jack Wilson, the base commander, anticipated seeing antiquated machinery. Pointed them inside to what seemed to be a typical fighter jet Smith hangar. Wilson just grinned and joked, "This employs fossil fuel propulsion, how basic would." The Imperial crew was taken aback by the subsequent display. The primitive jet flew in ways that seemed to disregard physics and executed maneuvers that their own ships couldn't equal. Smith's gadgets revealed nothing out of the ordinary when he insisted on scanning the engine. Smith murmured, "Your technology level is impossible for regular Earth technology. Does not permit this." In the meanwhile, Admiral Walker met with "Every time they examine our planet," he stated, "the Earth Council is perplexed. Technology, they anticipate seeing antiquated devices, yet when they..." He grinned as he watched those machines operate. "Let's just say they're having problems." As they wrote their findings, the council laughed heartily at the fact that people have long realized that sometimes the ideal location in order to conceal something that was clearly visible, Smith's team's most sophisticated technology didn't seem advanced at all. After visiting a naval facility, they saw Earth's ships engaging in drills in the... Once again, their scans of the Pacific Ocean revealed just metal ships and nothing noteworthy. Floating on water, yet the Imperial officials were uneasy since these basic boats held secrets. "Why do you?" Smith questioned the naval commander about the Empire's abandonment of ocean-going ships. "The ocean was a part of our home thousands of years ago, and the commander said that long before we looked at the stars that night, we had mastered it." Smith requested authorization in an urgent message to the Imperial fleet about Earth's military capabilities. The Empire gave clearance for more research, unaware that they were slipping into Earth's trap. The more they examined each archaic piece of Earth technology, the more perplexed they got. Seemed to conceal impossibilities when Smith's crew went to a space launch in the third week. Facility, they saw Earth use what seemed to be simple rocket technology to launch a satellite, but when they attempted to monitor the satellite, but it disappeared entirely from their sensors. "Your tracking systems must be broken." In a kind manner, the facility director asked if you would want to borrow one of ours. The Imperial squad was too arrogant to acknowledge that they required Primitive's assistance instead. They searched for the satellite for days, but Admiral Walker never found it. The greatest detection systems in the Empire were unable to uncover half of another secret report. Earth's satellites now are the result of decades of human stealth technological development. In their 6th week on Earth, Smith's crew found that concealing information from one another was even more effective against extraterrestrial sensors. They uncovered something that really astounded them. They unearthed research concealed in Earth's scientific databases. FTL principles were found 50 years ago while you were exploring faster than light travel. In a conference with Earth's experts, Smith shouted, "Why didn't you develop it, Doctor?" The chairman of Earth's Physics Council, Helen Ward, said coolly, "We found it. Risky and unstable, so we devised other methods to manipulate time and space." This revelation shook the Imperial team's records showed that no race had ever found FTL transport and decided not to utilize it, which completely contradicted their perception of primitive cultures. Smith's ultimate: Earth has to be handled carefully while they are visible, and his report to the Empire was significantly different from his initial one. Technology seems archaic, and there are alarming discrepancies that indicate the Empire's never-before-seen growth pathways advise prudence, yet the rulers of the Empire didn't want to hear about caution since they had already subdued hundreds of WHS and the Earth seemed to be an easy target. They disregarded Smith's cautions and planned their next course of action. Admiral Walker grinned after reading the Imperial communications that had been intercepted. He informed the Council that they believe they are hunting us, but they still don't comprehend. They are still unaware that we have been pursuing them, but Earth's trap was almost complete, and the Empire would soon discover why it. The United Earth Council convened in their subterranean meeting to discuss the error of judging a civilization only by its outward appearance. Chamber under the Swiss Alves seemed to be a simple space with a round table and screens, but it was among the most secure locations on Earth today. They would demonstrate to the Empire why Earth is in danger. Was a grave error, and Thomas Gray, an elderly council member, got up. He replied, "It's time to show our guests some of our real defenses," with a Syrian face and white hair. Just enough to create. The Imperial delegation came anticipating yet another dull discussion, which made them reconsider. Smith and his group sat down and scraped their seats with their golden armor. Admiral Walker clicked a button, confirming their belief that they were dealing with a primitive world that would be simple to conquer. A 3D map of the solar system and the room's muted lights were placed on the table. Thousands of tiny dots emerged above them, illuminating the whole Earth and extending beyond Mars. "What are we staring at?" Smith inquired, attempting to conceal his astonishment, and our defense network, Walker said plainly. "We've spent a century preparing, and those dots are the only ones we're showing you," the Imperial crew gazed. The majority of these covert installations were not picked up by their scans of the map. Automated industries in the asteroid belt and the moon defense structures around Mars. Smith's face became white. "This is all undetectable by their greatest detecting systems. Your degree of technology is precisely what we intended you to believe, which is impossible." In a second, the quantum field became active, and every Imperial cruiser found itself linked to every other spacecraft via twisted space, and the energy reflected back as one ship attempted to fire its armaments across the field, striking their own fleet from every angle. "Quit shooting," the captain yelled, but not all ships received the word in time due to the pandemonium. The Imperial Walker quietly observed as the Imperial Fire's fleet's own weaponry transformed their formation into a death trap. When the flawless configuration disintegrated, the second wave of actual weaponry from Earth was fired. Ultimately fired, but each one had a different kind of propulsion, so they weren't the primitive missiles the Empire had anticipated. That curved area around it, making it very hard to follow or halt the Imperial fleet attempted to flee, but they were held still by the quantum field. Weapons they couldn't even use were destroying their mighty ships, which had killed so many civilizations. "See that this is not feasible," the Imperial commander said while observing his. "Within 2 hours, the Empire is expected to be primitive due to fleet burn. Lost 100 ships, more than they had ever lost in their history." When the survivors eventually succeeded in escaping the quantum field, they leaped back to safety on Earth. Walker was not grinning as the festivities got underway, but he assured his police, and they'll be prepared for these techniques the next time, but we'll have new ones. According to his second-in-command, they have yet to see our actual defenses. Walker acknowledged that the Empire had just discovered that looks may be misleading, but they had not yet learned the most crucial lesson. People were most deadly when they were surrounded by a field of rubble. When the Moon-Earth cleaning crews started working, they weren't only clearing debris. Walker gave the order for Phase 1 of their research and improvement of Imperial technology, which they were gathering. Start the preparations for Phase 2. The Empire had governed the galaxy by terror. Nearly a millennium, but prior to this, they had never encountered an adversary like humanity. Wasn't only a struggle for survival, it was also an opportunity for humanity to demonstrate to the galaxy that bullies, no matter how large. Nevertheless, the actual conflict was just getting started, and word of Earth's triumph circulated across the Imperial government attempted to conceal their failure, but they were unable to stop the truth from spreading like wildfire. In her subterranean laboratory, the unstoppable Empire had been defeated for the first time in ages. Dr. Anna Moore used extraterrestrial technology from the destroyed Imperial ships in the Pacific Ocean, discovered a deadly hole in their shields, which she told Admiral Walker about via. They never imagined that they would be attacked as we were during a secure video conference. Their whole defensive strategy is based on antiquated concepts, Walker grinned. "Can we employ? This is better," Anna said, "and we can share it with others throughout the galaxy." Worlds waited and watched, hoping that Earth's victory would restore the optimism they had long since lost. Secret communications started to arrive. Signals from rebel organizations on 100 other planets reaching Earth via secret communication stations. On a mining world far from Earth, the troubles facing the Empire were just getting started. Workers discovered that the weaponry of their Imperial overlords had abruptly ceased functioning. Earth's quantum field technology had. The miners overcame their guards and seized control of their planet after being covertly implanted by rebel fighters. When the Empire's ships came to retake the mining planet, they discovered that Earth's new shield was cracking. In the Earth Defense Council chamber, Thomas, another Imperial fleet with technology waiting for them, withdrew in defeat. According to Gray, the Empire is losing as he displayed the most recent news that 7 planets had proclaimed their independence this week. Control Walker shown a star chart of Empire land, where their soldiers are dispersed before attempting to keep everything under control as we had intended, while Dr. Moore's team continued to create new. They dubbed their most recent creation, the Ghost Fleet ships, a means of combat that could bend space and light to make themselves appear and vanish when Earth shared this knowledge with its new allies. Imperial supply routes started to break down, making it impossible for the Empire to comprehend how they were losing spies who claimed that Earth was assisting other planets, but they were unable to locate any evidence of Earth spacecraft departing the solar system. They were unaware that people had developed technology to. Dr. Moore clarified that the Empire made a fundamental error without even leaving the house. Via quantum-linked communications to a group of extraterrestrial opposition leaders who believed they were outperforming humanity. Included removing our weapons, but the greatest weapon of humanity has always been our capacity to exchange information and join the revolution every day, adapting more planets. The proud governors of the Empire saw people with weapons based on Earth-inspired technology that seemed basic but held protection of unexpected power communication networks that the Empire was unable to prevent, shields they were unable to breach, and some Imperial subjects started to doubt their leadership after being informed that we're introducing civilization to prehistoric societies, and those prehistoric societies were introducing them to new ideas. Walker got a telegram from an Imperial colony asking for Earth's assistance. He informed the Council that the Empire is decaying from within and that their own people are turning against them. Dr. Moore's team created. They also discovered a method to identify Imperial agents by monitoring quantum patterns in their communications. Consequently, the Empire's intelligence network abruptly collapsed. Could no longer rely on their own intel. Earth isn't only battling us, and an Imperial general informed his superiors that the way war is waged is being altered and that we are up against an adversary that uses our own power against us. Although the Empire attempted to adjust, decades of following the same procedure had caused them to alter slowly each time they evolved. An alternative to the technology that humans and their allies had previously adopted. Walker with gray-washed reports from Walker, something new in the Council chamber. The Empire continues to have more ships, more men, and more across the galaxy. Resources, Gray acknowledged. Walker retorted, but we have something superior. Optimism, and we've shared that hope with others. Another Imperial sent a note. After one world declared its freedom, the Empire continued to reign over others. They have been learning a difficult lesson about fear for millennium. Might manipulate individuals, but it couldn't motivate them. Earth hadn't just taught the galaxy how to battle, they had also how to regain their self-confidence as the revolution expanded, and not even. Now that the Imperial High Command had amassed their greatest fleet ever, 10,000 warships, even the powerful Empire could not stop it. They anticipated terror, but the message to Earth was to simply submit or perish. In the past, billions of people have lived their lives in enormous city bunkers while they were in quiet deep beneath. Earth's surface seemed deserted and desolate after the majority of its inhabitants had relocated underground, although this was part of the strategy. Admiral Walker watched the Imperial fleet approach from the main command center. Citizens safe, he requested that all subterranean cities prepare their Operation Empty Earth is complete, the officer said, and the Empire's enormous fleet flooded Earth's skies. Their vessels obscured the sun in several locations, resulting in an. The purpose of the manufactured KN was to frighten, but the Empire was unaware of. Seeing an empty shell, a planet ready for this very time, Captain. Earth's space guerrilla forces were led by Michael Reed, whose spacecraft were swift, tiny, and they concealed among the asteroids to observe the breeze. making it almost hard to spot them. Reed informed Walker that the Imperial fleet had brought their whole fleet. Walker nodded from the trap as we had requested, and the Empire launched their assault. Their weaponry struck cities, military installations, and industrial areas with a tremendous barrage. Regions, but they were firing at deserted structures. The actual Earth was safer underground than its defenses. Turned on the first quantum mines that were concealed in orbit and started detonating with each blast. Established a narrow space where the powerful fleet discovered that Imperial ships could not utilize their faster-than-light capabilities. It is now separated into smaller groupings and confined in regular space. Walker gave the command to strike Reed's guerrilla fleet first, and his ships came from. Using Dr. Moore's Phantom Fleet technology, they made no attempt to combat the. Instead, they attacked fuel lines, weapons systems, and Imperial ships directly. The Empire attempted to coordinate via communication arrays, exactly as human guerrilla fighters had done for generations on Earth. Its defense, but Earth was prepared with a second surprise. Dr. Moore's group created a mechanism that could replicate and. Soon, Imperial ships were receiving fictitious broadcasts of Imperial command codes. They're in disarray with hundreds of contradicting commands, Reed said, observing Imperial. Ships accidentally fire at one another while switching to Phase 2 Earth's primary defense. Platforms came to light. They weren't the basic weaponry the Empire had previously seen. Rather, these were humanity's. After decades of preparation, actual weapons were created for this occasion, and the platforms. When they struck Imperial cruisers, they released odd devices that resembled little boxes. Instead of blowing up, they bonded themselves and began sending out quantum signals. Reed reported that the Imperial ship systems were confused and that their shields were weakening. The Empire had anticipated discovering a weaker Earth after aiding it, but they are no longer able to distinguish our spacecraft from their own. Instead, they discovered a fortress planet with layer upon layer of. Walker observed that every time they believed they had figured out Earth's strategy, something new emerged. When the powerful Imperial fleet plunged into disarray launch from his command center, he instructed cleaning crews to use specialized spacecraft built to seize wrecked Imperial ships that were being transported on Earth. Humans had always been adept at learning, and they were able to learn from any bit of technology they could salvage. From their adversaries, and the Imperial commander was astounded to see his powerful fleet, which had defeated thousands of WHS that were being dismantled by an adversary they sometimes couldn't even locate. He gave the command, but the quantum mines prevented many of his ships from escaping. As the conflict came to a close, Walker found himself imprisoned in ordinary space, with Earth's guerrilla soldiers tearing them apart one by one. Heard from people all around the solar system that Earth had destroyed or captured almost half of the Imperial fleet. Sent word to our friends that Walker had ordered the Empire's withdrawal and chaos. The main fleet is damaged and enters the final phase. Several of the Reed's valiant pilots had perished, and Imperial weaponry had devastated portions of the Earth's surface, but underground. Cities were secure, and humanity, even the most powerful, had accomplished something significant. With the right preparation and perseverance, the adversary might be defeated. The Empire had just learned the most difficult lesson of never corner an adversary who has nothing left to lose. Humanity has fought itself for eons to develop the ultimate battle was approaching, and the Empire was now discovering why so many had failed to capture Earth before them. However, 3 months after Earth's historic victory, Admiral Walker would lead the battle this time to the Empire's home. With Terra's optimism around him, he stood on the bridge of humanity's newest spacecraft. In preparation for the decisive conflict, a combined fleet of Earth ships and rebel spacecraft from 30 other planets. The capital planet of the Empire lies ahead, according to Captain Reed, who said his guerrilla fleet had used Earth's Ghost Fleet technology to survey the route and stay hidden. Dr. Moore's voice came over the quantum communicator as they assembled their final spacecraft for one last stand, and she was still on Earth organizing the battle's technical elements. Keep in mind their planetary shields never addressed their flaws since they continued to employ the same faulty technology as their ships. Never imagined that anybody would return to their homeland, which the Empire had reigned over in terror for a millennium. When Walker first saw the Empire's tactical display, which included 5,000 ships, they were the ones who were terrified. Earth and its allies had fewer ships to protect their capital, but they had a more crucial strategy. Don Walker gave the command for the assault to start, and all ships started operating. Fight in the history of imperialism rather than advancing with firearms blazing Earths. When the fleet launched millions of small drones, the Empire's defenders first chuckled. They were stuck in normal mode until the drones encircled their entire defensive fleet with a huge quantum field. Reed said that after entering Phase 2, the rebel fleet emerged, followed by ships from the Empire had already taken hundreds of worlds. They were fighting for their own, not Earth. They were more dangerous than any Imperial soldier because of their freedom. Defenders encountered adversaries they were unable to foresee. Each planet had taken lessons from Earth, yet each had adding their own thoughts. The Empire encountered 30 distinct methods of. Reed asked for the killer blow because fighting is breaking. From behind the Empire's fleet Earth's phantom ships, Walker issued the command. It seemed that the Empire had never discovered a way to identify them, but now it was too. The last fight for the Imperial capital lasted about 6 hours. The capital world's shields eventually collapsed, and the powerful Empire lost its final fleet. Vanquished by technology that, just a year before, they had written off as archaic. However, Walker delivered a message to Earth instead of destroying the Imperial capital. All Imperial planets, we just don't want your empire or your worlds. Want for each species to have the freedom to follow their own course inside the Imperial Palace. Walker spoke first during the meeting between the Earth delegation and representatives from each of the galaxy's worlds. He remarked, "Time is over, but we're not here to create a new one. Earth suggests a different cosmic." Dr. Moore submitted their concept to a council where all nations had an equal say. "We will make our technology available to everyone, not as weapons but as instruments to benefit everyone. As species evolve, there will be no more primitive planets or coerced membership. All worlds will be free." After centuries of power, the Imperial leaders were detained by their own people out of fear so that they may grow in their own manner. Ended quietly rather than dramatically, with the Empire evolving into the Commonwealth of Free Worlds, where all planets might. 1 month later, Walker stood in front of the United Earth Council, allowing it to select its own destiny. "We prevailed over a battle, and the hall was filled with delegates from Earth and 100 other planets. Informed them that we demonstrate that willpower is more important than physical prowess. Thomas Gray believed that freedom was worth fighting for, and that innovation triumphed over dominance." The new Galactic Council's representative rose, although he said that our greatest victory wasn't military. Showing the galaxy a better way, Earth not only defeated the Empire but also created it. outdated Dr. Moore's group had already started distributing Earth's technology to other planets, but more significantly they were exchanging ideas, and the notion that being different didn't imply being backward. The Empire attempted to create every planet, but variety made the galaxy stronger rather than weaker. Walker, the real job starts now. The same Earth demonstrated that all worlds might be distinct but cooperative. As the sun sets, the Council is informed that establishing peace is more difficult than winning a war, but people have always enjoyed a challenge. Ships from 100 planets traveled across the Earth's solar system in peace on the first day of the new century. Each was free and welcomed, but the Empire had intended to impose the Earth had showed them a new way to see a galaxy in which every species in the cosmos experienced a new dawn when they were able to follow their own stars, and it all began because the primeval world had the audacity to refuse an empire.